What's going on, guys? Khalipa's Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Cricket Icon 3 and the Samsung Galaxy A03s. So let's get started. So the Cricket Icon 3 has a 6.5-inch LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 268, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. We got a water drop notch up here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 5 megapixels. Overall, except for the bottom, the bezels are decently thin, and the phone has a slim design so it's not uncomfortable to hold or carry in your pocket. The Samsung Galaxy A03s has a 6.5-inch PLS LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. We got the same kind of thing going on here with the Samsung Galaxy A03s. We got a water drop notch front-facing camera up here that is also 5 megapixels. And besides the bottom bezel, the rest of the bezels of this phone are really thin. In fact, I would say the Samsung Galaxy A03 has noticeably thinner bezels than the Cricket Icon 3, giving it a nicer, more modern look. And speaking of a nice appearance, I do think this phone has a real nice design. It has a nice modern look, and the red back is really unique, especially for an entry-level phone like this. It really stands out and looks really nice and clean. Now, as far as the actual quality of the display goes, these phones are pretty much the same size, but in general, the Samsung Galaxy A03s does have a nicer looking display, I think. It's a little bit brighter in comparison to the Cricket Icon 3. So your experience with content consumption is going to be a little bit better on the Samsung Galaxy A03s because of this. Now for storage, both of these phones have 32 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, so it's not a whole lot of storage. Even if you're an average user, you're probably going to go through 32 gigabytes pretty quickly. So I do recommend getting a microSD card for this reason. Neither of these phones have wireless charging, which isn't very surprising, but both of them do have fingerprint scanners. With the Cricket Icon 3, it's right here on the back. And with the Samsung Galaxy A03s, it's right here on the power key. So let's give these fingerprint scanners a try and see how well they work. So we're going to start with the Cricket Icon 3. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So this fingerprint scanner was real fast and responsive. I have no complaints here. Moving on to the Samsung Galaxy A03s. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So overall, both these fingerprint scanners performed really well. It just comes down to where you'd rather have the fingerprint scanner, either in a more classic location on the back or on the power key. I personally like the power key fingerprint scanner a little bit better, but at the end of the day, a fingerprint scanner is a fingerprint scanner, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that if you like Face Unlock, the Samsung Galaxy A03s is going to be the way to go because this phone does have Face Unlock, whereas the Cricket Icon 3 doesn't. Not really a big deal in my opinion, but if it's one of those features that matters to you, definitely keep this in mind. Now taking a look at the rear camera setup, the Cricket Icon 3 only has one camera, and this camera is 8 megapixels. Now this is a pretty big drawback because even in entry-level phones, most phones do have a decent amount of features these days, but this one really doesn't. So if you're planning on taking lots of pictures for social media and stuff like that, I would strongly consider going with a different phone that has a better camera, because this is really only going to be good for taking a couple photos here and there to send to friends and family, or maybe Snapchat where the quality really doesn't matter. Not really for photos that you're going to want to keep. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A03s, we got a triple camera setup with a 13 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So this phone on the other hand takes some really impressive photos that I would definitely say are okay for social media and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty rare in an entry-level phone because I haven't really seen very many entry-level phones like these. They can take impressive pictures, but with the Samsung Galaxy A03s, you can definitely get some good quality photos. Now internally, the Cricket Icon 3 is getting 3 gigabytes of RAM, with the MediaTek Helio A20 processor. The Samsung Galaxy A03s is getting 3 gigabytes of RAM as well, with the MediaTek Helio P35 processor. I ran Geekbench 5 benchmark tests on these phones, and the Cricket Icon 3 came back with a single core score of 148 and a multi-core score of 505. The Samsung Galaxy A03s came back with a single core score of 175 and a multi-core score of 891. So definitely a pretty significant difference here. While both of these are still entry-level phones that are mostly going to be good for entry-level activities, the Samsung Galaxy A03s is going to be much faster. So if you're doing more web browsing and social media stuff, and even streaming videos and things like that, you're probably going to have a better experience overall with the Samsung Galaxy A03s because it's so much faster. Whereas if you're just using the phone for basic activities like sending text messages, making calls, using the camera, and maybe some occasional Google searches or something really light, the Cricket Icon 3 is still going to be okay, but again, the difference will be noticeable. Now the Cricket Icon 3 has a 3500 mAh battery, and the Samsung Galaxy A03s has a 5000 mAh battery that supports 15 watt fast charging. So this is a pretty significant difference. The Cricket Icon 3, while not being the smallest out there, definitely has a pretty small battery in comparison to a phone like this that has a really large battery. So if you don't really care about battery life, if you're going to have your phone plugged in all the time, or maybe just not use it very much throughout the day, the Cricket Icon 3 is going to be acceptable. But if you use your phone heavily and don't always have the chance to charge it, the Samsung Galaxy A03s is going to have a huge advantage because not only does it have a large battery, but it also has fast charging. Now another consideration is down the road as the battery degrades. With the Cricket Icon 3, you're going to notice this degradation a lot faster. So basically, you'll have to replace the phone sooner. But with the Samsung Galaxy A03s, you're not going to notice it as fast. So if you like to keep the same phone for a long period of time, you're probably going to be better off with the Samsung Galaxy A03s. So in conclusion, which of these phones is better? I think these phones are actually pretty comparable in terms of specs, but overall, the Samsung Galaxy A03s is definitely a much better phone. There's pretty much no real area where the Cricket Icon 3 has an advantage. The Samsung Galaxy A03s, while having the same size and quality display as the Cricket Icon 3, still just looks nicer overall, and in my opinion, has a much better looking design. For security options, I do like having the fingerprint scanner on the power key versus having it on the back. And the Samsung Galaxy A03s also has face unlock, so that's another plus for this phone. In addition to that, there's no question about it, the Samsung Galaxy A03s has a much better camera setup and can actually take some decent pictures for social media and that sort of thing, which I found pretty pleasantly surprising for an entry-level phone. The Samsung Galaxy A03s has much more processing power as well, which is going to give you a better experience in web browsing and social media and that sort of thing. And it also has a much larger battery. So overall, while the Cricket Icon 3 isn't really a bad phone if you just want something super basic for stuff like sending text messages and making calls, that sort of thing, the Samsung Galaxy A03s is a much more high quality device that's going to give you a better experience in everything overall. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And as always, I will see you in the next video.